Hey guys, welcome into the Stinkin Truth Podcast. Mark Schlereth alongside Mike Evans. For all of you who make us a part of your week, thank you so much. Mash down on that subscribe button. Continue to share with your friends and family. We appreciate you. Mike, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great after an awesome week of football weekend. It was really cold out here in Denver, Colorado. So to just be able to hunker down and burrow underneath the blankets and watch football all weekend, it was great. We got a lot to talk about, so let's jump right into it. Are you part of that mob, pitchforks and lanterns, that believes the Chiefs game was rigged with some of the official calls and the non-calls, centering once again around Patrick Mahomes?
Do I think it was rigged? No, I think that's preposterous. Was it rigged? No. Does Patrick Mahomes get favorable calls? Absolutely. No questions asked. He does. I mean, you can't watch that game, even if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, you can't watch that game and say that he doesn't. Like, the only reason you come back on me at Twitter or on Twitter or X or whatever it is, because I am, you know me, I'm a very gracious loser, but when it comes to winning, I am an absolute dick. And I am being as much of a dick as possible on X because, I'm pointing it out to all the Chiefs fans. Like, those penalties, whatever you say, 2 personal fouls, 1 roughing the passer, ridiculous call, and 1 unnecessary roughness, even a worse call, that both go in Kansas City's favor. And then you look at guys like Jared Goff getting lambasted on the goal line. I mean, if that happens to Patrick Mahomes, you're doing 5 to 10 in state pen. Like, the NFL arrests you on the field, they book you and take you off the field. Like, those things are ridiculous. And for Patrick Mahomes, like, I have a lot of respect for what he's been able to accomplish, and I have a lot of respect for what the Chiefs do. They're a great football team. They deserve to be where they're at. They execute exceptionally well. Look at that game against the Houston Texans. Like, those 2 penalties, did they matter? Absolutely they mattered. But you know what else mattered more? Giving up 8 sacks matters more. Giving up a punt return or a kickoff return in the opening kickoff matters more. Getting a field goal blocked matters more. Missing a field goal and an extra point, that matters more. The Chiefs don't make those ridiculous mistakes. Houston did. So Houston cost themselves that game. But there is no question, if you watch the games, if you watch them at all, there's no question that he gets favorable calls. And so, I have this argument. I think I'm going to make a tape today. That's going to be my job today. I'm stuck in New York. I'm by myself. What else am I going to do? Take a nap and make a tape. That's going to be my day today. That's exactly what I'm doing. And so, my own Danny Parkins that I do breakfast ball with said, by the letter of the law, that was roughing the pass. They did graze the helmet, so that's roughing the pass. By the letter of the law, the right tackle of the Kansas City Chiefs is in a legal formation every single play of the game. By the letter of the law, he should be flagged every single play. He flinches almost on every single play. By the letter of the law, that should be called. Every drive, there should be, illegal procedure or whatever, 5 yard. It's going to be, hey, it's first down and 45 from the Kansas City 1. Like, eventually you get to the point where you're just half the distance to the goal, Like, it's ridiculous. And so if you're a Kansas City fan, you can't honestly get on me. Like, I get all these guys, well, you used Vaseline on your jersey. Yeah, you cheated. Yeah. Bottom line is they get away with preferential treatment.
Here's what I would, if I'm a Chiefs fan, let me give you this bit of advice, okay? Instead of being upset about it, look at it as a compliment, because this is what happens to really good teams and really good players. This is no different than LeBron James driving the lane and getting the automatic whistle, 2 free throws, preferential treatment. This is no different than it's a 3-2 pitch right on the black and Justin Verlander's the pitcher he's going to get the call, right? It's a reputation that has been earned based on excellence. And it's been going on in sports for as long as sports have gone on. We tend to see it more in basketball, right? The preferential treatment, the friendly whistle, the superstar treatment. But, now you're seeing it more in the NFL with the quarterbacks. Like, all right, for example, Jared Goff. I mean, Jared Goff's a really good quarterback, but he's not in the same class as Patrick Mahomes. When Goff threw that pick six and got blown up on the return with a very blatant helmet-to-helmet hit, no call was made. You know damn well if that had been same exact play with Mahomes, Roger Goodell would have ordered a firing squad at midfield to take out the offender.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at every game this last weekend. Every game had a questionable late hit on a quarterback. The Jared Goff one you mentioned, Jayden Daniels out of bounds, Jalen Hurts every other one had one of those plays in it. None of those quarterbacks drew the flag.
Yep.
Mahomes did. And here's what I miss about my time in the NFL. This is what I miss. In my time, we would have handled it. In my time, there would have been some frontier justice. In my time, if you're going to tiptoe on the sideline and act like you're going out of bounds and then twinkle toe down the sideline for another 10 yards, somebody would have tried to decapitate you and live with the consequences. 15-yard penalty, oh, well, that's the way it goes. And so I miss that time in the NFL because ultimately, if you're going to do it, get your money's worth. If you're going to get flagged anyhow, and that's what I tell the Buffalo Bills, you're going to get a flag anyhow. You might as well just absolutely punish the dude. Because even the Will Anderson hit, it wasn't helmet to helmet, but Patrick Mahomes, throws his head back and draws a flag. I'm not saying that I lose respect. I used to find it really hard to be angry or to hate Patrick Mahomes. And I have for years. As a matter of fact, I've kind of been a secret, even though I live in Denver and I'm a Denver Bronco, I secretly kind of have a crush on Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. I'm finding it much easier to draw ire and to hate Patrick Mahomes right now because of that stuff. Because of the, he got on the sideline. Dude.
Yeah,
stop.
That was a bad look.
You already get all the calls. Mm-hmm. Stop it.
Yeah. Don't. Yeah, that was. I'm with you. We live and die with Bronco football, and so the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and all throughout this run of the Chiefs and Mahomes and Reed, I've never really been able to summon up a whole lot of hatred for Mahomes or Reed, but I lost a lot of respect for Mahomes with that sideline play, slowing down, trying to invite the hit, and then getting brushed and going full soccer player on us. So lost a lot of respect, lost some respect right there.
Yeah, I am finding it much easier to hate the guy.
Yeah,
which makes me feel
hate.
Yeah, no, good sports hate.
Good sports hate. Even good sports hate? Really? Okay.
Yeah, not individual. I don't know Patrick. I don't have anything against Patrick, but yeah, I'm finding it. Sports hate is good. I find that very pleasurable.
All right. We'll let's move on to let's talk about some of the other things that came out. Lamar Jackson. On the surface, another playoff flop, had an interception, had a fumble. The Lamar stands are coming out and saying, hey, he did fine. Not his fault. It's all Mark Andrews' fault. It's all Mark Andrews' fault for dropping that pass. Where do you come down?
The narrative exists that you lack playoff success because it's true. That's why the narrative exists. And you can sit there and say, hey, he threw 2 touchdowns and he led an 8-play drive to tie the game up or to give them a chance to tie the game up on the 2-point conversion. And Mark Andrews drops a 2-point conversion. It wasn't a great throw. The ball it was behind him. It was a little bit late. Should it have been caught? 100%. Mark Andrews would tell you it should have been caught. Everybody will tell you it should have been caught. But that pick that he threw might be the worst throw I've ever seen. You got exactly what you want. You got a little smash corner route on the backside. You get man-to-man coverage. You're in a cover one, right? You get the inside leverage to the corner. That should be completed. You're wide open. That should be completed. An average quarterback completes that 10 out of 10 times. You threw it 9 yards over the receiver's head and 8 yards inside the receiver to get that ball picked. That's the worst throw I've seen in a playoff game. It was the worst throw of the weekend, by far the worst throw of the weekend. So there's that. Then you give up the fumble, right? And even Lamar said it. I get too anxious. I make mistakes. It's the anxiety, whatever he said. I'm paraphrasing. Mm-hmm. But then you get a bad snap, you corral the snap, and then you fumble on top of it. But I'm not even talking about those things. Okay, those things happen, all right? You can't compound a bad play by making it a worse play. That's what you did. Well, then you get down 1st and goal from the 2-yard line. You hand the ball off to Derrick Henry. It gets stuffed. Then you take an 8-yard sack. You're the MVP, the 2-time MVP, maybe the 3-time MVP. You can't take that sack there. So that's a bad, it's a bad play. So, there's one of the things I don't understand about Baltimore either. We get down on the goal line, then we motion Derrick Henry out of the backfield to make it empty. Like, why are we taking the threat of running the ball out when we're on the goal line? I don't from a coaching standpoint, I don't understand that either. But the narrative of Lamar not performing in the playoffs exists because he hasn't performed in the playoffs. Think about this. Number of 2 turnover games. In the regular season, his percentage of 2 turnover games, Mike, is like 15%. 2+ turnover games, like 15%. He's played 8 playoff games. Do you know how many 2 turnover games he has in those 8 playoff games?
Go ahead.
4. 50% of his playoff games comes with 2+ turnovers. So you could sit there and make excuses, and you could sit there and focus, if you choose to, on the final drive of the game and ignore all the other drives, because I understand it's weighted, right? That last drive has more weight to it than the rest of the game, but you're in the position for the last drive because of some of the stupid things you did, some of the bad mistakes you made.
So you're looking at somebody who in the playoffs is 3-5, completing 60% of his passes, and has, 10 touchdowns to 8 picks in his playoff games.
And how many fumbles? Another
6 or 7 fumbles, I think, at least. Yeah. So, that's something that it's, 10 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, averaging less than 200 yards passing per game in the playoffs. I mean, those are damning numbers. And yet this is a guy that could win a 3rd MVP. Nobody's denying his regular season excellence, but if he wins a 3rd MVP and he's got this playoff record, what's the narrative going to be around this guy? If at this point, if you're Lamar Jackson, do you not want to win the MVP because of all the inevitable I mean, let's face it, anytime anybody brings up Lamar Jackson's MVPs, it's always going to be the ultimate but.
Yeah, well, which is pretty typical of anybody in that situation. Like forever, Peyton Manning, like right now, with Lamar and Peyton, their statistics are about the exact same come playoff time. In Peyton's first 6-7 years in the National Football League, I think he was 3-5 in the playoffs and hadn't won, and had, bad numbers or turnover issues and all those different things. And that narrative exists until you squash the narrative. Till you go out and you put a series together, you put a series of playoff games together, 2 or 3 playoff games, and it culminates in a world championship.
Even then, Stink, because I remember when Peyton Manning came to Denver, and we were, discussing the idea of Peyton Manning, the whole Peyton Manning experience. And one of the things that dogged him, even with a Super Bowl already won, was the idea that he had an all-time career losing playoff record to that point.
Yeah.
And that he needed to go out and win a second Super Bowl to put himself at the big boy table. Lamar Jackson will have as many playoff wins as MVPs. That's a bad look. I don't
Yeah,
care.
no, it is. It is a bad look, and there is no denying he's one of the most exceptional players in football. There is no denying that he's one of the toughest guys in the National Football League to defend. There's no denying that he has improved dramatically as a passer and has become, such a dual threat that he had, over 4,000 yards passing and over 900 yards rushing, the first time that's ever happened in the regular season in the history of the National Football League. Had over 40 touchdowns versus 3 interceptions. I mean, the statistics are mind-boggling. They're mind-numbing how incredible he was this year. So I tip my cap. Absolutely incredible. But you can't ignore and you can't dismiss the lack of playoff success.
Well,
and
I was there real quick. Are we guilty then? Do we have to change the narrative? Because that's a regular season award. Should your playoff performance influence what you did as a regular season performer? Do we put too much emphasis on having the playoff record to back up your regular season record?
No, well, I don't think so. I mean, I think how do we differentiate players' careers? And ultimately, it always comes down to what did said player do when the moment was the brightest? Mm-hmm. What did said player do in the playoffs? How many world championships did he win? And that's what you look at. Like Eli Manning has zero chance of being a Hall of Famer if you base it on his regular season.
That's right.
Zero chance. Right. But Eli Manning's probably going to go into the Hall of Fame someday, maybe even as a first ballot guy, because of the 2 world championships he won with the Giants, both against the Patriots, who happened to be the best team in the NFL in those situations. One of them was an undefeated Patriots team, the 2007 Patriots. So that's what will get him into the Hall of Fame. So it matters.
Let's get on to some of the other games. When you're watching Saquon Barkley do what he's doing for Philadelphia the other day, are you getting Terrell Davis vibes back with your great Bronco teams, watching a running back, dominate the game like that?
Yeah, it's cool, man. I love watching Saquon do his thing. I love watching him bust out those runs, and obviously, man, he's got that breakaway speed too. Which TD didn't have breakaway speed. I didn't really ever see him get caught, but he didn't really have that breakaway type speed that Saquon has. But it really is impressive that they're doing it without much of a passing game. Remember, Jalen Hurts got hurt in week 16 against Washington, right, in the second drive of the game. And then he didn't play week 17, week 18. Then he played in the playoff game, but it wasn't great against the Green Bay Packers. Then last week he wasn't great and he hurt his knee. So, he did have the 40-yard touchdown run or whatever it was, but he was not great in the passing game, but didn't turn the ball over. So everybody's focus is 100% on Saquon Barkley, which they did a pretty good job, all but 2 runs. They held him to about 3 yards a carry, except for the 2 runs where he went 70 plus and 60 plus, right? And that's the beauty of Saquon Barkley. And when you're trying to stop a guy from running the ball down your throat, what do? Well, you slide backers over. You either boss them, backers over strong, or you go backers, bow them, backers over weak, and you insert a safety. You insert a strong safety, insert a weak safety, right? And you make an 8-man box. And you say, hey, we're going to fill every gap up. We're not going to let him get the cutbacks, or we're going to force him into a cutback, unblocked guy. We're going to make a tackle for a 2-3 yard gain, and that's going to be it. Well, guess what? You get a little bit out of sorts, a little bit out of your gap. You read it wrong, they block you, and that thing's to the house, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's Saquon Barkley, and that's this offensive line, and that's the one equalizer. To me, they can line up, and they can just say, hey, man, bring 8, bring 9. We don't care. We've got an answer for you, and our guy can take it to the house every time. Philadelphia is really dominating both lines of scrimmage. Jalen Carter's been unblockable. Mm-hmm. Zach Bond has been all over the football field. Nolan Smith off the edge has been great. Like, they have really played good football on both lines of scrimmage, and that's a recipe for playoff success. Hey, man, we'll manage our quarterback. Our quarterback hasn't played really great in the passing game. That's all right. Hey, if you look at it and you say, hey, Jalen Hurts, here's our game plan. Don't turn it over. That's all. Every drive, what do they always say? Every drive ends in a kick. Mm-hmm. Either it's an extra point, it's a field goal, or it's a punt. As long as we can end every drive in those situations, we're going to be okay with the way our defense is playing. And the way we run the ball, eventually we're going to break one. And that's kind of the game plan going forward. And it'll be interesting to see exactly how that works against this red-hot Washington team.
Let's talk about Washington. Jayden Daniels, have you ever seen a rookie quarterback like this?
No. I've never seen anybody not only do what Jayden Daniels is doing, which is incredible. Over 4,000 total yards, completing 69% of his passes. I mean, tons of touchdowns. They are, I put the stat up the other day. They were like 26 of 32 fourth down conversions. I mean, it's something insane, Mike. And think about this. Here you have a defensive coach, right, in Dan Quinn. And usually, and this is where Dan Quinn probably should be the coach of the year. I don't know if he'll get it because his playoff run wasn't accounted for, but you take a defensive coach in a day and age when it's all about the offensive coaches, the young, innovative offensive coaches. Oh my gosh, they're so smart, New passing design, by the way, hasn't been invented in 30 years, but that's okay. We're not going to, we'll just bypass that. So this innovative offensive coach, he's young, so he can connect and communicate with players and blah, 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 and all the horse shit that people spew all the time. Here comes Dan Quinn. In his 50s, he's a defensive coach. He's been a defensive coordinator in this league for a long time. Here he is completely connecting with the players, and he's erring on the side of not protecting his defense. He doesn't give two shits about his defense. Hey, fourth down, we're going for it. Defense, we're going to put you in harm's way. I trust my quarterback so much that we're going to go for it on every fourth down. Think about this, man. Everything is on the shoulders of Jayden Daniels. Mm-hmm. We're going to run the ball. Hey, third downs. We're going to go for it on third down and longs. You're going to throw the ball. Hey, we're going to run the ball. We're going to convert our fourth downs, either throwing it or running it with you, Jayden Daniels. Everything is focused on Jayden Daniels. The weight of the entire franchise is on his shoulders, not only throwing it, but also running it. Last week, Scary Terry, he throws a bubble screen. I know it's just a bubble screen, right? And he goes 60 yards or whatever it was. But he threw it into the teeth of the blitz. He recognized they're blitzing. He throws it to where they have a numbers advantage, and Scary Terry goes down the sideline for this 60-yard touchdown. It's smart. He understands what they're trying to execute. He understands how to take advantage of a defense. And by the way, everything is on his shoulders. I have never seen a quarterback in this situation where the entirety of the game plan is on his shoulders and says, like when you have a rookie quarterback, Mike, the history has been, we're going to run the ball. Mm-hmm. We're going to take it out of the rookie's hands. We're going to give him third down and short conversions. We're not going to be afraid to punt and play defense. I saw a statistic that every rookie quarterback that has gotten to this point, a championship game, Sean King, Ben Roethlisberger, Mark Sanchez, on and on, all had like a top 3 or 4 defense. Washington's like in the 20s or something. I mean, it's insane. I've never seen anybody be put in this position and have that much responsibility hoisted upon them their rookie year, and he's come through with flying colors. He's been nothing short of amazing.
While he's not a rookie, you could certainly argue that Josh Allen carries a tremendous weight when it comes to the success or failure of the Bills. He didn't play a great game against Baltimore, but the big difference after we just got done talking about Lamar's mistakes, Josh Allen didn't make any mistakes. And, isn't that sometimes the story of playoff football? It's not about necessarily going out and winning a playoff game. It's just making sure you avoid losing it.
Yeah.
And I thought Buffalo played that role perfectly the other day.
Yeah, what's the old Bill Belichick line? You can't learn how to win a game until you learn how to not lose one. And, I understand, hey, he didn't throw any touchdown passes. Well, he did run for 2 of them?
2,
I mean,
yep.
the red zone run game. I think the one thing we have talked so much about Buffalo and losing Stephon Diggs and losing Gabe Davis and and all the different things that have gone on, and what are they going to do to replace that production? And it's going to be wide receiver by committee and blah 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 blah. And all they've done is gone out and dominated the line of scrimmage. They've run the snot out of the ball. They've been great in those situations. The quarterback run game plays into that as well. Like, everything they have done has been top notch, Mike. It's been incredible. And I give them a lot of credit. And the other thing is the unselfishness of Josh Allen. He's not turning the ball over. He's being very careful that, putting an emphasis on possessing the football. And then the way he runs it, the unselfishness with which he hands it off and just says, hey, man, if this is the way we're going to win, I love it. Let's win this way. I think it's pretty incredible what he's done this year and the transition that he has made, and the growth that he has made as a quarterback, coming in from a couple of, his first 2 years where he's completing 50 some odd percent, like a low 50s, 52, 53% of his balls, and not having a ton of success, to where he is operating at such an incredibly high level right now.
So looking forward to the championship games. We'll do that a little bit later in the week, but let's put a bow on some of these teams that lost this weekend. We already talked about Baltimore, Detroit. I won't lie. I loved this Detroit story. I really did. And I wanted to see it end up in the Super Bowl. And I found myself, normally I watch these playoff games, I don't really have much of a rooting interest. I was genuinely feeling bad for the Lions and the players and the fans, because I didn't want to see it end. But now that it has ended, Ben Johnson's leaving to go to coach the Chicago Bears. Dan Campbell insists that the Lions Super Bowl window hasn't slammed shut. Do you agree?
I agree that it hasn't slammed shut, but it certainly hasn't gotten easier.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it looks like that Aaron Glenn, their defensive coordinator, is going to go be the head coach of the Jets. And that may happen later on today. Obviously, already Ben Johnson has been slated and accepted in a contract to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears, so he's already gone. But when you look at them offensively, they're bringing back, pretty much everybody. They've got the best offensive line in football. They've renegotiated and re-signed Jared Goff, who played at, an all-pro level. They've got the best slot receiver in football in Amon-Ra St. Brown. They got Lip, the top of coverage guy, in Jamison Williams over the top. They've got Sam Laporta, who's outstanding. They got two of the best backs in all of football. So they are loaded. They've got a lot of weapons, and they're really good. But it'll never be the same. And I'm not saying that they won't win a championship at some point. They may, but man, it's hard to be the number one seed. It's hard to have that kind of success. Hopefully they get healthy on defense. Hopefully they stay healthy throughout the season. And hopefully they're back in that position. But yeah, I played for Washington. As excited as I was for Washington, and I did feel it for Detroit. I mean, would have been maybe the greatest Super Bowl matchup in history would have been the Detroit Lions versus the Buffalo Bills.
Right.
Two, sad sack, lovable loser kind of franchises that have never hoisted Lombardi. Somebody's going to hoist it. That game would have probably ended in a tie. Both of them get a share. You get the top half, I'll take the bottom half.
Hey, listen, you never had one, so you'll at least take a half, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Everyone walks away. Participation ribbons for everybody. As far as the Rams, Matthew Stafford, I know you're a huge Matthew Stafford fan. Have we seen the last of him? Do you think he retires?
He said he's going to take some time, right? Going to take some time away, kind of make a decision. I just like Matthew Stafford, and I realize it's 16, 17 years he's played now, which is insane. But you look at his skill set, it hasn't diminished at all. Like, his skill set's unbelievable. And I would just think, hey, man, they've got a good enough football team. They have addressed their line issues they had a couple of years ago. They're running the ball. They've got some receivers in Puka and Cooper Kupp and some of the other guys. Like, they've got the makings of a really good offense. And, oh, by the way, don't look now, but what they've drafted on the defensive side of the ball, dude, they are stacked. They're loaded. So I would think for Matthew Stafford, hey, man, take some time, get in a nice tub, go to the spa, sit in a sauna, I don't even want you to think about it for at least a month and then get back to me when your body feels great. Then let's talk. When your body feels great, we'll give you 4 to 6 weeks. Your body feels great. It's going to be awesome. Now come talk to us when you're feeling great, because he's playing at such an incredibly high level that it would be really hard to walk away from the game.
And finally, for Houston, back-to-back playoff appearances, back-to-back playoff wins, but it seems like they, continue to bump into a ceiling. CJ Stroud, I don't know do you feel that this was a regression year for CJ Stroud? The numbers would indicate that he regressed. Does the eye test tell you that? And how do you feel about him and this team moving forward?
Yeah, I feel really good about this team moving forward because I think defensively they're outstanding. Offensively, they should be, they'll get their health back, hopefully. I just think they need to address, and I always say this, when you give up 8 sacks, it's your quarterback and your offensive play caller that really stink, but their offensive line needs to be addressed as well. So they've got a triumvirate of bad things going on there. I think their quarterback holds the ball too long oftentimes. I think their offensive line is not very good, and I think their play caller tends to not mitigate the issues they have up front with enough efficiency. So those 3 things have to be addressed. So there was a regression there from CJ Stroud. And last year O-line was an issue as well, but they masked it better, or he masked it better. That hasn't been the case this year. They have gotten exposed to a degree. And I think a lot of it is on CJ Stroud. A lot of it's on the play caller. And, if I was divvying it up, I'd just give it a third to each. Third. You guys can all share it.
Okay. Well, we look forward to the championship games. We'll break those down a little bit later on in the week, and it's going to be a lot of fun as we get inch ever closer to the Super Bowl.
And I just do want to say this to all the Kansas City fans, because I know I'm going to get a lot of hate out there, and I just want you guys to know, the level of respect I have. I just want you to know that I have a ton of respect, and I just want you guys to know that I am cheering against you, and I hope you guys get your ass kicked this weekend. I just want you to know that from the bottom of my heart. I hope you get your ass kicked. Okay, that's just from me to you. We are tighter than mouse nuts. This is us right here. Okay, that's you over there. This is me and Mike and I over here. This is Mike and I. That's you guys over there. But anyhow, in all seriousness, you guys have a great weekend. Kansas City, I hope you cry in your milk over cereal on Monday morning. And for Mike and for everybody involved in the Stinkin Truth podcast, love you guys. We appreciate you guys. Kansas City, come get a taste. Let's go.